No niin, terve vaan kaikki. Tästä jatkuu Darkness Within pelailu. Me olisi nyt aika mennä sinne Clark Fieldin asunnolle. Eli mennäänpäs täältä toimistosta ensin pois. Ja sinne se ilmestyi. Mennään sinne. This place welcomes one with a threatening sulk. You reach it by climbing through serpentine shady tunnel-like streets where the houses perch and lean against each other, and the hostile natives peer out of windows and doors furtively. The interior looks much different than the exterior would suggest. Looks so mysterious. I think I can find something here. No niin, aletaan tutkimaan tätä paikkaa. It's locked. Tänne ensin. This door is not locked. I think there is something behind it that blocks it. Tänne päästiin siis kuitenkin. Katsotaan mitä täältä löytyy. This door is locked. Yllätys, yllätys. Mitäs tässä? Tauluja. Semmonen. Tommonen. Ja tällainen. Siinä joku valokuva. There is a note written in the back of this photo and that reads Jonathan and Clark Field. Mr. Field said that he and his brother did not get along. This is the only family picture here. Siinä on lapsina siis. Siinä on jotain lappuja. Katsotaan miten niissä lukee. These are Mr. Field's notes. So my notes were not the complete set. Some pages of Clark Field's notes, but 2 of 4. For the past 2 weeks I was out of town because of my job, and when I returned feeling tired, I learned that the restoration had not been completed due to the sounds that some of the workers suggested came from the cellar. This incident made me really angry, and I immediately obtained a strong flashlight in order to find out what those superstitious vagrants may have been afraid of. My purpose was, by using the old rusty ladders, to go down and just take a look down there, but it didn't matter how many steps down I took, the ground continued to be concealed in the claustrophobic pitch darkness of the well. A short time later I noticed the opening of a horizontal tunnel. I entered the tunnel to check it. I don't know how long I stayed in there, wondering why and when this worm-like burrow was dug. But when I decided to proceed, I felt like that my legs were aching. After moving forward a short distance, I reached a wide chamber which was full of blood-curdling strange statues. On its walls you could see signs of some erased and now to a great extent unreadable writings or wall paintings. The air was dominated by some kind of thick decaying smell which caused me to cough frequently. From the opening of the tunnel on the right and left walls of the chamber, there were some kind of statues which looked almost alive. So much so that just for a second I thought that they would rise and start to walk, which I thought depicted saurian-headed creatures with the bodies of men. There was another figure which seemed to depict a ruler, similar to the hybrid statues on the walls, who was sitting on his throne and watching one of these creatures being sacrificed. This scene was depicted with such realism that no one could look at it without feeling a sense of terror. When I got close to the figure sitting on its throne, I noticed that some kind of smoke was leaking in from the gaps that were behind the concrete throne. In fact, this was not easily discerned because if not for the wind which was blowing the smoke inside, I wouldn't have noticed it at all. I heard some sounds coming from behind those gaps which allowed the wind and smoke to enter. The presence of these gaps made me believe that there may be other chambers below that one. If so, this could be an important archaeological discovery. I jumped with the fright on hearing some noises that were certainly coming from beyond the tunnel in the depths of the pitch-black well. I immediately entered the tunnel, intent on locating the source of the noises. In spite of my strong flashlight, visibility was limited. Through weary eyes, it may have been a momentary illusion or the enormously magnified shadow of a rat being illuminated by my flashlight beam, but I saw, or I think I saw, something moving down there. I jumped with fright because of this, but only later would I realize the thing that shocked me and caused me to wake up from nightmares and listen shivering to the sounds that came from beyond the darkness that, like a thick blanket, covered the places where merciful moonlight cannot reach. While I attempted to see something with my flashlight within the glutinous darkness, I heard a feeble voice that came from some faraway place calling out something like "Come." The voice was very similar to that of Ivar's familiar low-pitched voice. Through the effect of that shock, I threw my flashlight into the dense and dreary darkness, and with both hands free I dashed to the cold, damp and rusty metal ladder which, at that time, seemed to me as though it was eons old. While I was climbing up, and without daring to look down, I caused a piece of the ladder to be broken off and it fell into the pitch darkness. Mr. Field wrote that he broke the ladder while escaping from the well. Maybe because of the confronting feeling provided by this incident, I managed to reach the top and get out of that well. The next morning, when I woke up to my bedroom, bathed in the sunlight, I thought that all these events were just delusions merely caused by excessive weariness and insomnia. I reached another conclusion. Maybe Ivar was right about the restoration. This sort of place was very important features invisible to the naked eye. Hence I decided to leave the house as it is now. I am not going to make any further efforts to restore the house. Tyhjä sivu. Eikä siellä on kaivosta mennyt tikkaat rikki. Täällä ei tää muuta nyt olla. Pois. Tutkitaan yläkerta seuraavaksi. Siinä jotta ei mitään hotspottia. Ihan vaan yleisesti vilkastiin. Siinä on lappu. An unreadable paper. Jeps, ja kello. This clock stopped at 6:55 AM. Mitenkään mä en muista enää yhtään miten nuo viilausua nuo kaikki kelloajat nyt. Eiköhän tuo ollut nyt kutakuinkin sinne päin. Siinä kello. Nyt mennään tänne sitten. It's humid in here. This wardrobe is locked. Tässä sängyssä. Housut. Ja joku kirja. And maybe it was because of this that mankind always tried and is still trying to overcome this obstacle with the help of some hallucinogenic substances. A lot of carvings and petroglyphs show us the signs of mushroom cults that existed thousands of years ago. Yes, I read a book about them. They were cults which used hallucinogenic mushrooms to induce trance-like states. Sienikultteja. Pahin viholliseni. Understanding the soul metamorphosis demands extermination of far more complex and esoteric thought systems together with the asserted theories. Soul metamorphosis. I have never heard of such a thing before. Required by these systems. It is obvious that the soul metamorphosis is not a state that can be achieved simply through the process of altering the state of consciousness. It appears that from the allusions which were found in some of the ancient texts, the information about the characteristics of this state is insufficient and leads to even more confusion, but again a consociate point becomes apparent. This is the probability that the hallucinogenic substances which can be seen in most of the ancient documents, drawings and carvings may serve as a key or catalyzer. The most important examples of these can be seen in the stories that are told about the secret, Eleusinian mysteries, and the Kykeon drink which were used in these rituals. They are very important in this respect. At this point I want to continue with some examples from the strange and in some parts confusing book of the notorious German writer, philosopher and alchemist Wolfgang Schneider, who lived during the latter part of the 14th century, and because of his radical thoughts about religious topics was burned at the stake when he was 68. This book, that was translated into our language as Eclipse of the Soul, is really hard to find presently, and it is believed that original copies can only be found in certain major libraries. In the book, the parts which deal with a very ancient esoteric belief called Versahe, that was said to be directly related to the metamorphosis of the soul, are particularly interesting. According to the book, in the Versahe belief, the starting and the ending phases of the metamorphosis of the soul process are depicted with the eclipse of the sun. The writer asserted that this belief is based on an ancient oral traditional doctrine, but he also claimed that he had intentionally kept secret the sources which led him to this information. The information necessary to research this topic could not be found due to the secretive attitude of the writer. Yet, according to some ethnologists, signs of this kind of a belief are present in the world. Another source that the writer used for proving his assertions must be mentioned and cannot be ignored. This source is a series of parchments called Summoning the One Who Lies Beneath. He claimed that the originals had been written in 4839 BC by an Egyptian priest using strange hieroglyphs and some unknown symbols that are not hieroglyphs. He further emphasized that the one he possessed was just a copy of this original brought by him from Cairo and might be dated 2200 BC. This parchment could not be found despite widespread searches by contemporary mystics. There is speculation that even if a parchment like this really exists, it probably resides in the collection of some rich occultist. The Summoning of the One Who Lies Beneath is thought to be a compilation describing some preparations and rites, written by an unknown cult that worshipped Apep and opposed the Maat. This is according to some Egyptologists, although there are some who disagree with them. The important thing here is once again the allusion to the use of hallucinogens. We know that there were mushroom cults in the Sahara Desert 7,000 to 9,000 years ago, owing to some carvings and petroglyphs. The fact that the texts and the diagrams in the book completely corroborate these historical truths proves that what Wolfgang Schneider had written about the summoning the one who lies beneath may be true. Elikkä tähti 1. The Eleusinian mysteries were annual initiation ceremonies for the cult of Demeter and Persephone based at Eleusis in ancient Greece. Of all the mysterious celebrations of ancient times, these were held to be the ones of greatest importance. These myths and mysteries began around 1500 BCE and later spread to Rome. The ritual's cultic worship and beliefs were kept secret for initiation rites and united the worshipper with God, and included promises of divine power and rewards in the afterlife. Kykeon was an ancient Greek drink made mainly of water, barley and herbs. It was drunk after Eleusinian mysteries. Apep was the definition of chaos and darkness and thus opponent of light and Ma'at in ancient Egypt. Apep was seen as a giant snake, crocodile, serpent, or in later years in a few cases as a dragon. Ma'at was an ancient Egyptian concept of truth, justice, order, and balance, and also a goddess who was the personification of this concept. Jep, se kirja oli siinä. Joo, tässä on nyt mennyt sen verran aikaa, että jatkellaan sitten taas ensi kerralla tämän talon tutkimista. Elikkäs se on moro.